Right, the Tatt Collector has sent me another parcel. He's really getting his money's worth. Just joking, mate. In here, he wanted me to take a look at doing an RGB mod on an N64. Apparently there's quite a few videos. Trying to find the lid for that. Apparently there's quite a few videos of Americans doing it and doing like a NTSC version, but he's managed to find a PAL version, sent everything in it, and the game bit driver I didn't have for the what did I do in the last video? Oh, the GameCube. Yeah, I didn't have a game bit driver for the GameCube. I might buy one. So we got a game, we've got all the stuff in here, power brick, leads. Oh, and that PS3 controller he sent me last time as well. He said it doesn't hold a charge, so it's probably needs a battery, or it's probably missing a battery, knowing my luck. Right, so that's all the N64 stuff. In that bag is probably the mod. Like I said in our last video, I've never had any Nintendo stuff apart from a Wii. Just never been into it. Always been with PlayStations. Let's move that aside. Most of you watching this have probably already seen one of them. Oh, ribbon cables. Couple of screws and a mod board itself. So we've got no instructions on anything, so I'm going to have to look up on a video. So how's this change it to RGB then? I would have thought with that video signal it would have been RGB anyway. Your video signal, your left and right audio. So not RGB for a SCART lead? I have no idea. No idea what this mod is going to do. So apparently he's told me it's Tatt Collector's told me this is a simple thing to do. Famous last words. Memory slot. I think when he gets his back, I think he's bought himself a green shell, or was getting a green shell that he's going to put it in. So when he gets this back, I'll link his Instagram down below. You can see if he does that and see what it looks like. I'm sure this all works, but I will plug it in just to confirm it's working. So I'm not going to start working on it first, then doing the mod, then find out it doesn't work. I want to make sure it's not been damaged in the post or anything like that. Power on the socket. Power on there. Did we get any lights on these? No light. Oh, light, red light in front. Got a red light in front. Let's turn the TV on, which is going to turn my PlayStation on for me. Thank you very much. Right, so there we are. We have got something on the screen. There we go, we know it's all working. So we'll get a close up of some graphics there. Don't know whether that's going to make any difference when we change this mod. So yeah, that is working fine. Now I'm going to watch a quick video on how to install the RGB mod. So right, let's open this up and see how easy it is to install this mod. Run the intro. Right, let's get this opened up. Going to revert to my online guide. I've seen a video of someone doing this as well. I think it's the same mod. So I believe this board gets stuck to the heatsink, so it's out of the way. So this is just going to sit in there. Plenty of different washers to use on this. There's the trouble, you get no instructions with this kit, so you need to use an online guide just to even know what order these washers go in. Well, the online guide I've got doesn't tell me what order these go in. The online guide I've got has got 3D printed parts with it, so that's going to need to go on the bottom to block that hole. So that's the nut's going to be the last one. Then I'd say the lock-in washer, then the big washer. So that's on the bottom side of the board. Then on the top of here, what we have? Why would we have a fibre washer? I don't really see the point of a fibre washer, because we've got metal here and metal on the back, which is obviously a ground. Why would you need a fibre washer? Well, that's connecting to the top, and let's put the fibre washer on. The two little metal washers. I think it's probably just going to give it a little bit of height. And that's going to go through there. I won't put any Kapton tape on it. We have got some little standoffs on there, so that will keep it away from the heatsink and stop anything from shorting, hopefully. So we've got the big metal washer that's going to cover the hole. Now a little lock-in washer, and then we've got a lock-in nut as well. It's got the little 9 on top on it. Now I'm just going to hold that nut with some pliers and screw in this side. Making sure that washer's going to be over that hole. I don't really like the angle that's set at. You want to make sure that there's no components on that board that are going to be shorting with the heat shield. I don't see the point of the washers, they're not really holding it up. They're not really holding the board off, are they? I need something thicker in there to hold it away from the board. Alright, so I found one that's got quite a big hole in it. As an added bit of security, I'm going to put a bit of Kapton tape along the heat shielding. So I'm just going to stick this that along there. Let's cut that hole out. Now I want to make sure it's not going to be obviously stopping these ground pads from touching the heat shield, because I want them ground pads to touch there. I'm just going to cut this down a bit. That's going to blunt the blade. So those ground pads are probably about where that capacitor is. So when I put that over the hole now, you can see that capacitor is nowhere near the tape. So these ground pads will be touching the heatsink. That's better. Let me see if this will work. Just annoying me now. I think so that one, that might work. Right, fibre washer, another washer, Another washer. Now the bigger washer. That can contact that capacitor there though. But hopefully if it's flat. Not overly keen on it. I'm not over tightening that. It's not too bad actually. I think that will be okay. We look down in there. There's nothing. That big washer underneath the board. No way that is going to be touching anything. You can see that every component down there is clear from the bottom. We've got our 2 ground pins touching the heatsink. And yeah, nothing's going to be touching this washer. There's nothing on the board that could touch that. And that's a lot more sturdier. Off the board as well. Let's see if we can check from the other side. Yeah, so none of the pins focus on me. You see, none of our pins there are touching anything. Components are well away. That looks much better. So obviously we're getting our ground through this screw. Remember there was a silver ring on there, so we're getting the ground through there on the back of there. So it doesn't matter about this Kapton tape that I've put on. We're still getting a ground connection, and also the 2 pins, 2 ground springs we have down there touching our heatsink. So yeah, I think that just needs to come with 2 washers. A big fibre washer might have been better, but then that would have bent because the holes are big. Right, that was a bit of faffing around with that, but we got I'm happy with that. Better solution, should supply 2 large washers. That would be better, I think. Put any suggestions down in the comment below. That's much better. Right, so we are done for that now. Done with that piece. Right, we need to have a look at the main board. So we've got our 2 ribbon cables here. We're going to take this cable first. We're going to put it over here. So that just fits over all those pins on there. We have got some jumpers we need to set, but depending on what you want to use, I think you need to probably read the instructions yourself on those ones. So I think depending on how you set this up is dependent on what jumpers you need to do. You can see the pins that have got the copper rings to them, so not all pins need soldering. Like that one, let me get a different pointer. Yes, like that one you can't see like a gold ring around it, copper ring. So you don't have to do that one, don't solder that one, or that one. Just got my iron set to 380, so hopefully I don't melt anything. I've actually got a really small tip on this, probably too small. I'm not really going to get the heat into the pin. Slightly bigger tip. Much better. Get a bit more heat into it. The bigger tip. Much better. Right, now with this mod we are going to be using C-Sync, which is connected to this pin 3 here. So we need to close jumpers 2 and 3 on this one, SJ1. So we just put a blob of solder which closes that, and you also want to make sure pin 3 comes down to this C22. We want to make sure there's no components on there. I think if there is, you need to take them off. I'm just going by what the guide says. I've never done this before, so this is all new to me. And then also on the other side of this cable, we have another jumper over here. And I believe on the guide I'm following, I'll try and put a link to the bottom. It is slightly different, but it's very similar. We're just going to jumper pins 2 and 3 on this one. So there we go, hope you can see that. That is jumpered across there. So that's that one, and then 2 and 3 on that one as well. So I think that's that cable dealt with for now. Now I flip the board over to this side. This could be awkward to do with this heatsink on it. But now we're going to take our second cable. It's a bit kinked on the end of here. And I believe it goes this way round. So I don't know if you can see down there, that says pin 8, which will correspond to pin 8 down here. Which is, what's that dot on? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's where our bottom one needs to go. Pin 8 there, which is 2 down from that one. So that's, yeah, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So yeah, so either 2 down for that one or 3 down for that one. Pin 8, it's like by this little triangular thing with a wire. Might be a bit awkward to do because we're bridging over this chip that's sitting up here. Just find a good angle for me so I can solder this. Might have to spin that round. Though you can't see the pins now. Take that heatsink off of there. Just twists off, it's just got a thermal pad on there. Make life a little bit easier. So if I were to connect it onto the end of the pins there, I think we'd be alright there. Let's get a bit of flux on the end of my iron. That's where I'm going to probably shake and burn my finger. So do you know what, I might just put a bit of extra solder on some of these pins, a bit of leaded solder, lower that melting point. Get a bit of flux on there to help the solder flow as well. Now I'm going to get bridges everywhere. Just going to change my tip, not really the tip for the job. Right, let's use my bent tip, get a bit more heat into here. To remove some of this bridging. You certainly don't want to be bridging pins. Okay, that's better. Nothing's bridging now. Quick wipe of that flux, get rid of some of that. A little bit of IPA. First one tacked down, or the last one, however you're looking at it. No, we didn't. Right, I think we have them tacked down in the right place. Not add any more solder yet, just want to use what's on the board. Right, I think it's good. Let's clean the soldering iron tip off. I don't want to get any more solder on here. Let's just get in with some flux. Let's just reflow these joints. And that, if I can get the screen glare out of it. It's looking alright. Don't think there's any don't think there's anything short in. Ooh, little hair. And that one may be a bit close. Might have a quick look at that. Always add flux when you're soldering. Was it those ones? Yeah, left one of those 4. Yep, that all looks fine now. You can always do a quick test with a multimeter to make sure none of the pins either side are connecting. So if we actually go on the pins on the chip, so that's not it's not shorted. And those two are shorted together. Actually, didn't they go to the same via under there? I think they might have done. Right, let's try these. We can also check that it's soldered. Should have done that one. Soldered. Let's make sure they're soldered first. Yep. Propped it up. So that's okay. Not shorted to the next one. Into that one. Ooh, come on. Those two are connected. And shorted to the one next to it. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. I'll actually have a quick look under my microscope. Right, you can see pin 1 down there. They're all fine, not shorted together. Then we're coming up to pin 8 there. This looks fine. 9, 10, 11 and 12 are all looking fine. 13, 14. They're all looking fine there. They're all connected. It's at a slight angle so you can see the pins on the chip. Everything is It's alright with no shorts. So maybe those pins that are short together should be. Is that a short there? That's a short, wasn't it, I think? Which is up on the last pin. So that is fine, not shorted either side. Yeah, I think that is all looking good. Nothing shorted. Microscope is rubbish. If anyone wants to send me a proper HD microscope, please do. Right, so I think that is all looking good. So not quite done with this yet. We need to solder a wire from the bottom of that capacitor onto that pad there, which I believe gives it its 3.3 volts, gives this flex cable some power. So we'll just tin this pad ready. Get a bit more solder on our capacitor leg down there. It's very fiddly because you heat up one end and it melts the other end. Oh, finally, I think that's connected on there nicely. Very fiddly job. So we're connected onto this cap. Now on the instructions as well, we've got 2 points down here. That N64 one travels over into the PIF chip. I think it's pin 2, I'm going to double check that. And on the guide I've got, they connect that second one. I think one's a reset switch, one's a controller. Yeah, reset controller, it says it on the board. The guide I'm following has got that control switch going down to a wire on here, which is different. The layout is different to what I have. So I need to try and find and check, see what pin it goes to. Right, just looking at the documents, I'll try and leave a link below. They're all very similar, slightly different. So that reset pin goes to pin 27, so one down from there, second one down. And the control pin, or the control pad on this one, goes to pin 16, so the second one up. The second one down, second one up. Alright, I think we just solder straight to the pins. You'll see pin 2 coming down here, and I'm not sure where it's going. There's no other components around, and you can't really see where pin 16 is going. Not pin 2, that's pin 27. Pin 27, pin 16. You probably could use a multimeter and find out, but I think I'm just going to solder directly to these pins. I think for this one I'm just going to use some enamelled wire. So I use a thick one, which isn't really that thick. It's probably less than a mil. Or should I really use a fine one, a hair one, which is 0.01 of a mil. I think I'll go with a thicker one. So just trying to get rid of a bit of enamel on the end of there first. Melt the enamel. Get some solder to stick onto it. See how the solder's like really gloopy without any flux. So you can see now the enamel's not really come off and no solders on there. I'm just going to spin the board around. Tiny bit of flux on that pin. There we go, it should be nicely soldered. I'm just going to try and hold this. Let's try and route this nicely. It is enamelled wire, but I just want to keep it away from anything it could possibly short on. Hopefully it's just going to look a bit nicer as well. Solder it down. Trim that off to roughly where I want it. Let's get some flux on there and some solder. Try and melt that enamel. Just get some solder on these pads. What's that one? It's the reset switch soldered into place. It's also sat off the board here, so it's not touching anything. Could use some solder mask and stick it down. Yeah, I'm just going to do the same thing on the bottom, the control pin, pin 16. That was it. Alright, so there we go, and that's the second cable connected. As you can see, I've just followed the route around, tried to keep them similar, and up there put a multimeter on continuity, just make sure there's no shorts between the wires. They all are nicely separated. So as you can see, even though the wires are following each other, pin 16 and 27 aren't touching, aren't shorted. So we go pin 2, it's coming up on there on the control. Pin 27, it's coming up there on reset. Right, that is that part done. Just put this pad back on there. Hopefully the screws will line all that up. Right, so we're going to start assembling this back together. That's our bottom plate on there. And also what we need to do is, because that cable's coming up through there, we need to just bend this piece of metal out of the way, and they say to cut it off. But I'm not a fan of cutting because that's going to leave a sharp edge. So I think I'm just going to bend this up. Now you can cut it if you want, cut along there. But I'm just going to try bending this back. Because if I cut it, I'm going to be left with a really sharp edge. So if I just bend it, I should be left with a nice little curved edge. Probably could get that flatter, but it's a nice bent edge now for that to fold over, rather than a sharp cut edge. Right, so this cable has to come up here, then bend back over on itself, and we are going to solder it down to these points. Actually, I think what I need to do is just tin these pads up. Tin these pads up, get some solder on it. To make sure there's no oxidization on there, and it's going to take solder. And flux will help with that as well. So here we go with some more flux. Look how nice that is now, just flowing along. I'm going to prep this side as well. We'll do this side, get this side ready. Oop. That you can't see. Basically I've just done these points over here. There you go, just try and get that flux off while it's still warm and liquefied. Get it off this side as well. Now it should be able to heat this solder up and it will come through the holes. Not sure where we can see, there's tiny little holes in the top. So hopefully now when we heat this up, that solder can come through. Want to get some of them stuck down first. Let me spin this round, so I don't want to be melting that plastic connector. So now I'm just going to run some solder across the top of that. There we go, that's looking much better now. Right, let's try and just get this top one on without burning my finger. Good. Solder that bottom one on. Not quite sitting very flat because of the bend on it, so that's going to help by holding it down. Right, now I think the last thing we need to do on here is down the bottom we have jumper 4. I think this has something to do with line doubling. So I think you jumper it so it doesn't default to line doubling. It's hard to see on the guide I'm following whether it's just those two or whether it's all of them. Yeah, it's hard to see whether that's just the top two jumpered. Not sure what the other jumpers do. I think one's for like a V-Sync 300 milliamps. Doesn't actually tell me on the GitHub thing that I'm on the installation guide that I can see what J2 does. Yeah, but I think jumper 3 may be something to do with a 300 millivolt sync. But another video I've seen have just jumpered 4, and it looks like in the video they've just done the top 2. Very hard to find something definitive that shows everything on this. But hopefully, if this all goes well, you can now follow my video, because we know it works. Or do we? I think we're ready to test. I'm not going to like that cable rubbing across the top of that metal. I'm just going to put a bit bit of PVC tape under that. Well, I want this on there because that is going to rub along there all the time. Bit of movement and rubbing. And that's going to wear through that in no time. Another thing they do is that you've got a ground point on here. Just down in here, you've got another one that says ground. And what they've done on the guide that I see, they've put a wire from there and just into that screw. I don't see why, because the board is grounded underneath on those two springs. But just because they have done it, I'm going to do it too. Right, I believe that it is. That is it. All that's left is to plug it in. Turn it on and see if I get anything on the TV. Right, I'm getting no signal on the TV. Getting nothing. It's getting warm, so something's turning on in there. Maybe the card wasn't in properly. It's come on now. Right, so there we go. There it is in bits just to show you, and the mod. And there it is on the TV screen. It's just come up. Probably looks just as bad as before. I need to see how you get into the menu on this. 2 seconds. So to get to the menu, you're meant to press D-pad right, plus L, plus R, plus C right. But looking into this after the fact, you can't actually get the menu up unless you've got the right RGB cables, which I haven't. I've still got the original multi-cable, which uses S-video. So this is probably the reason why I couldn't get the menu up in the first place. But other than that, everything seems to be working fine. So I think it's just time to end this video, and I'll put this all back together afterwards and send it back to the Tatt Collector. So it is installed and working. Whether the RGB side is working or not, I've not got an RGB cable for it now. So it's working through the S-video cables. I think you might be able to get a menu up as well by holding the right D-pad, left, right, and the right on the C pad. But that's not coming up. I don't know whether the control is perfectly working fine, or whether there's something different in here. I think it's a success, but until the Tatt Collector gets its back and he gets proper RGB cable for it, the multi-out to RGB, I'm not too sure. He might have to send it back to me just to take a second look at it. But it all seems to be working fine. We've got a picture and everything. So as far as I'm concerned, the mod's installed and working. But hopefully the Tatt Collector will put something up on his Instagram page when he gets a cable and gets this all set up properly. I have to go at this, got this going through like a video converter box as well, which does like SCART to HDMI and changes resolutions and stuff like that and upscales pictures. So it's a bit hard for me to tell on this one. But yeah, I've never modded anything before, but we've got this installed and working. Any of your thoughts, any of your comments, things I might have done wrong, or should I get the menu up on here? If any of you have done this before, please leave a comment in the description. Leave a comment down below for me. If I have done anything wrong, then maybe the Tatt Collector can send this back to me and I'll take another look at it. But for now, it seems to be working fine. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you learned something. Please like, please comment, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.